Hello, and welcome to the English with Greg channel. Great to have you all here. I just had a quick look before we started, and there were about 65 people waiting. I think that's the most that have ever been waiting for me to start the live lesson. So great to have everybody here, and thanks for being here already and waiting to go. So this is a Phrasal Verbs Masterclass. Today we're going to be talking exclusively about phrasal verbs. And yeah, let me get my little presentation up here because I have a presentation for you today. This will be interactive and I'm going to go through a few things that help you feel more comfortable using and learning phrasal verbs. We're going to look at these four things really in today's lesson. First, specifically what things to focus on when you are learning phrasal verbs. A couple of things that most people forget, but which are really, really important for you to use phrasal verbs naturally and confidently. The second one is a few rules and patterns. Now, this is fantastic. If you think that phrasal verbs are just a complete mess and it's like impossible to find any logic with phrasal verbs, I've found a few patterns, okay? I don't think we can call them rules because there are so many. Well, there are no rules really, but you can always look for patterns that help you at least guess the meaning of phrasal verbs. So that's going to be really, really useful. The third thing we're going to look at is how to learn phrasal verbs, because I've been teaching English for 20 years, more than 20 years. And I've seen so many people learning phrasal verbs and vocabulary the wrong way. So this is going to be really, really useful for you to see how we learn, or how you should learn phrasal verbs. And I have something special for you at the end of this lesson too, because today is a very special day. So let's start the lesson. I won't spend too much time bringing comments on screen, but I would just like to say a big welcome to everybody from here, from Munich, Lake Como, Nepal. Yeah, just great to see everybody here. Students of mine, Sonia, Louisa, Anna, and some non-students too. So let's get started with this. And before we do, just answer this question for me. How do phrasal verbs make you feel? Okay, so in other words, I say phrasal verbs, you think what? Write it in the comment. I want to see how you feel about phrasal verbs. Do you think panic? Do you think phrasal verbs are great? They make me sound so English when I'm speaking. Do they overwhelm you? Do they make you feel like you've learned English, but then there's a whole other language of phrasal verbs to learn? How do you feel? Okay, let me see then. Frustrated, confusing, looking for a synonym. That's really common, especially with Latin languages, because we always have a phrasal verb and a synonym. Most phrasal verbs have a synonym, and the synonym is usually similar to the French, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese. It has the same Latin root. So it's quite normal to find an easy synonym. Nuclear fusion makes you feel happy, but Nata makes you feel sad. Great phrasal verb there. Crack me up, makes me laugh. Sonia, yeah, okay, so like afraid to say something completely wrong. Yeah, I mean, a great example of that is the example that I often use, which is put up can mean to let somebody sleep in your house, but put down can mean to euthanize or to end the life of an animal. I mean, up and down, you get the wrong one and you completely change the sentence. Yeah, I'm putting my brother up, I'm putting my brother down. Huge difference. Veronica, it makes you feel shy, confusing, frustrated, overwhelmed. Yeah, because overwhelmed, because there are so many. There are. And each phrasal verb can have more than one meaning too. Makes you feel better. Okay. Makes you feel fluent. I can get native speakers now. Yeah, when you use them, you feel great and you feel fluent. That's the best thing, because it is easy to choose an alternative, but when you use phrasal verbs, it can make you feel fantastic. Jimena makes you feel like what? Bad. Surrounding. Losing a derby. Okay, man. So many different feelings, a lot of them negative, but I think the general thing is I think it makes you feel a little bit negative, but when you use them, it makes you feel positive. Okay, right then, let's continue with the lesson. Okay, so first things, what to focus on. This isn't a huge section, but there are two things that you need to focus on that I think a lot of people don't focus on, because there's no point just learning a phrasal verb like this, like bring down. Okay, bring down, make you feel bad. Okay, you feel really good. Yeah, you got an exam. You had an exam and you got 80%. Okay, or 8 out of 10, and you feel great. But then everybody in the class tells you that they got 10 out of 10. And suddenly, from feeling this good, you feel this good. It brings you down. Okay. Bring down. It's no good learning just the phrasal verb. You need to also focus on, is it separable or is it inseparable? In other words, is it brings me down? Or can we say it brings down me? There are 3 types of phrasal verbs. One is inseparable, like this. Okay, it brings me down. We have to put me, or the person, it brings you down, it brought Nata down. We have to put the person in the middle of the phrasal verb. We have to separate the phrasal verb and put the object in the middle. The other, well, one example of this is the TV. Okay, please turn the TV off. Another type of phrasal verb is where we can do this, but we don't have to. So we could say, please turn the TV off, or we could say, please turn off the TV. And both are the same, both are correct, both are perfect. And the third type is inseparable. And these are ones what we cannot separate the phrasal verb. So you have the verb look, you have the particle after, but you cannot separate this. You can't say, I looked her after. No, it's wrong. Okay, it's wrong and difficult to understand. So we have to say, looked after her. When you're learning a phrasal verb, it's not enough to just learn the 2 words or 3 words. You need to, well, you absolutely need to learn, is it separable? Is it inseparable? How do we use it? And the best way to do that is to learn a sentence. So if the phrasal verb that you are learning is turn off, learn the sentence. Okay, learn the sentence. Please turn the TV off. Okay, and if you do that, it helps put it into context. You don't really need to translate turn off because it's obvious because of the context, and also you learn how to use it. Is it separable? Yes. Okay. The second thing you need to focus on is stress. And this is a really, really simple rule which helps you with pronunciation. It helps you actually to pronounce the phrasal verb in a clear and easy to understand way. Now, phrasal verbs are a verb plus a preposition and sometimes plus another preposition. So they can be 2 words or 3 words. And the rule is simple. Always stress the second word. So with the phrasal verb put up, you stress the word up. With the phrasal verb put up with, again, you stress the second word. You stress the word up. Head out. Do you want to head out? Perfect. If you say, do you want to head out? It sounds strange. You're stressing the wrong word. And if you stress the wrong word, it's very difficult to understand. And it's very easy to misunderstand what you want to say. And that's true if you stress the wrong syllable in a word, and also if you stress the wrong word in a sentence. So just remember, when you're using phrasal verbs, stress the second word. And if you have a separable phrasal verb like this, then stress the noun. Please turn the TV off. The TV is the most important thing in that sentence, so you need to stress that word. Okay, there you go. Stress. So important. I correct pronunciation in one of my courses, and seriously, more than 50% of the corrections that I make is because of stress, not because of the sounds that people are making. Okay, rules and patterns. This is a cool section. So let's have a look at this. I'm going to have a drink first, and while I do, just a few of the feelings that people have had about phrasal verbs. Panicking. Okay, heading out. Good evening from Prague. I've been there. Very nice place. And Germany too. And Danielle, makes you feel good. Awesome. Daniele, sorry. Okay. Rules and patterns. We're going to look at these prepositions. So as I said, you have the phrasal verb, you have a verb plus a preposition. And sometimes the preposition can give us an indication of what the phrasal verb means. Not always. As I said earlier, I put my brother up means he can sleep in my house. I put my dog down means, sadly, I had to end the life of my dog. They're sometimes completely illogical, but sometimes the preposition can give us an idea of what the phrasal verb means. So let's start with up. Up. People ask me, Greg, is it up or up? It depends, okay? I'm from the north of England. In the north, we say up. In the south, they say up. And when you have a phrasal verb that ends with up, it sometimes gives the idea of intensification. Okay, so it makes something sound more intense. Completion or thoroughness. thoroughness, doing something in a very, very thorough or complete or very, very, very well done way. Okay. For example, let's finish up the project before the deadline. Now here we could say, let's finish the project before the deadline. But if we use the phrasal verb finish up, it just gives the idea of completion. Okay, as we mentioned before, intensification, completion, thoroughness. Let's absolutely, totally finish the project before the deadline. Make sure to eat up all your vegetables. Again, I could say, make sure to eat your vegetables. But if I use the phrasal verb eat up, it's clear that I'm saying that I want you to finish your vegetables and to eat all your vegetables. The excitement built up as the concert approached. Okay, what did we say? Intensification. So you have excitement before the concert, and as the days go by, as the concert gets nearer and nearer and nearer, this excitement intensifies. And that's what that means. Okay, you could say it built, it increased. Yeah, but with this phrasal verb, you think build up. What does that mean? Okay, well, we're talking about intensification and build. So something getting higher. And finally, please clean up your bedroom before dinner. Again, this means completely clean your room, not just your desk, not just make the bed. No, clean up your bedroom. Totally clean your bedroom before dinner. Okay, now down can mean a reduction. It can mean slowing. It gives this idea of slowing and also breaking apart. Okay, so making smaller, slowing down, and breaking apart into many different pieces. Let's have a look at a few examples. Slow down, cut down, calm down, break down. So slow down. Yeah, you need to slow down on the highway. You're on the highway, you're on a big, busy road. There's lots of traffic. You need to slow down. Okay, which means reduce. Go slower, reduce your speed. He's trying to cut down on sugar. Cut down on sugar. If you just had this sentence, he's trying to blah down on sugar, it doesn't really matter what the verb is. It's a phrasal verb. It ends with down. It gives the idea of reduction. She told the children to calm down. Again, we're talking about calm. It's clear here that we're talking about reduction, a slow pace. And let's break down the complex task into smaller steps. Okay, so you have a very big, I used to do this at university when the professor said, okay, you have to write a 10,000 word essay. I thought, what, 10,000 words? Okay, total overwhelm, total panic. But if you break it down, break it down into smaller steps, then it's a lot more manageable, a lot easier. Okay, so breaking apart. That's another idea that this preposition, down, can bring to some phrasal verbs. And talking about phrasal verbs, oh man, I always remember a group of girls. I had a class of 5 girls many years ago, all in the same class, and they brought to me a list of like 50 phrasal verbs, and they said, we've got an exam tomorrow on all these phrasal verbs. And they had the phrasal verb and a translation in Spanish. And I was like, what do you want me to do with this? It was a terrible way to learn phrasal verbs and also totally overwhelming. If you break them down into maybe 5 or 10 every day, it's much, much easier to learn them. Okay. Out. Right then, out. If we have a phrasal verb that ends with out, it can give the idea of discovering something, completion, okay, similar to up, and also distributing. Let's have a look at a few examples here. So we're heading out at about 8 p.m. What did I say? Discovery, completion, distributing. Okay. Also direction. Okay. I forgot to put it on that. But direction in the direction of that way, out. Okay. So we're heading out at about 8 o'clock. This means leaving the house. Okay. Think of you opening the door and your head goes out of the door. Head out of the door. Head out. We're heading out. We're leaving at about 8 p.m. Check out. Somebody said here, exactly. A hotel. Check out. You're leaving the hotel. Perfect. Figure out. Figure out. Okay. Discover. Yeah. Figure out. So can you figure out this maths problem? Figure out. Yeah, that means discover or find a solution to this maths problem. The teacher will hand out the exam papers. Okay, hand. He has a big pile of papers in his hands, and boom, boom, one for you, one for you, one for you, one for you, one for you. Distributing. Okay, so hand out the exam papers. And a rash is when you have like an allergic reaction, and this happens to me with certain medicine. I get spots on my arm or on my body, and the expression is a rash can break out if you're allergic to something. Okay, break out. So just think, yeah, distribute. Kind of, it starts and then it gets bigger. It distributes around your body. Okay, break out, another one. Great example. If you break out of prison, then you escape from prison. Okay, so these, as I said, there's lots of other examples, but these are really, really great patterns to just to know and to keep in mind when you're learning phrasal verbs or when you're reading English or listening to English and you find, well, you see these phrasal verbs. Okay, the last one is off. And off can give the idea of separation, removal, or the start and end of something. Okay, let's have a look at a few examples here. Please take off your shoes at the door. Yeah, please remove your shoes. Separation. Okay, you're separating the shoe from your foot. Take off your shoes. We had to put off the meeting until next week. Separation from the initial idea. Yeah, removal from your calendar. We're separating it from Tuesday and putting it on Thursday or putting it on Monday next week. Sometimes you have to use your imagination for these. The conference will kick off with a welcome speech. Okay, kick off. This, we also use this in football. Okay, the start of a football match. One player kicks the ball to another player and the game starts. And we can also use this just generally to mean start. The conference will start with a welcome speech, or a much more natural way to say this, an advanced and awesome way, is kick off. The conference will kick off with a welcome speech. We'll be kicking off in 20 minutes. Okay, so that means start. And yeah, the storm cut off power to the entire area. Big storm, lots of lightning and thunder, and as sometimes happens, you lose power. Okay, the storm cut off power. It removed the power for the entire area. So there you go. yeah, we have some they're not rules, they're not guidelines, they're patterns. And if you try yourself to find more patterns like this, take off in an aeroplane. Yeah, take off and land. Yeah, take off is, I mean, separation from the land. Yeah, or the start of a flight. Both things. So yeah, look for these yourself, because they're really, really useful. If not, it's just a massive mess of of no rules, and it can be overwhelming. Okay, next is how to learn phrasal verbs. Now, I have a question for you and a fun message to put here. So first, I'm going to ask you the question: how do you normally learn phrasal verbs? Okay, you tell me how you learn phrasal verbs, and then I'll tell you how I think you should learn phrasal verbs. Okay, and while you are writing, where's that message? Why go off when the alarm clock alarm? Okay, so basically, you're in bed, you're sleeping, and at 7 o'clock in the morning, your alarm clock goes biddy beep, biddy beep, biddy beep. This phrasal verb is to go off. Why off instead of on? I mean, I've had this conversation so many times. Why off when it's actually the music or the sound is on, not off? The answer, I guess, is that we can use off to start something, like take off. Yeah, the airplane takes off. Your alarm goes off. It starts. The game kicks off. So it can mean to start, and it's not related to the music being on or off. So there you go. There is a little bit of logic sometimes. Okay, so my question was, how do you normally learn phrasal verbs? Right then. So, Nata, in context, okay, as we talked about earlier, learning it in a sentence, not just phrasal verb plus the translation to your language, but in a sentence. Great. Listening and then applying them in my speech, also good. Okay. Context, a lot of lists, but in vain because you forget them the next day. I have heard that a million times. Learning context, try to remember them from a list. Intuitively reading and then testing it on native speakers. Yeah. Okay. Three-part phrasal verbs are too difficult, like put up with. They're not. They're not, because you just learn it as a group of words. Okay, you don't learn them as if you think of phrasal verbs as like two separate words, or if you think of a sentence in English as like 10 separate words, it's difficult. It's easy to make a mistake. But if you think in groups of words, then it's much easier. Okay, much easier, and you're less likely to make a mistake. I always say that it's like when you say your telephone number to someone, you probably don't say, my phone number is 81581. You probably say it's 815-814-2942. Okay, or you just say it in groups because it's easier to remember and easier to say. How do you normally learn phrasal verbs? Actually, I don't learn, I cry. Okay. I've been learning by listening and applying it in my speech. Oops, sorry. Watching films, listening to music, my YouTube channel. Okay. Translate it as a similar expression, sometimes looking for a synonym, or learn it by heart. Yeah. It's difficult to find a translation sometimes. A synonym in English is actually a bit better. A translation to your language is sometimes not possible. Repetition by heart and in context with tears. Okay. Break them down into smaller groups based on the main verb and then study their meanings with examples. Okay. Man, lots of answers. Fantastic. Thank you for your participation. Really, I love seeing this. And it's also great to give ideas to everybody else as well. So in context, through conversation, reading, writing, look for the meaning on the internet and then make sentences with it. Yeah, and if you look for it on the internet in a dictionary, always focus on the examples and look to see if it's separable or inseparable. Compare it with my native language. Yeah, probably a bad idea. I agree. I learn phrases as whole of all words. Individual ones don't make any sense in my language. Okay, brilliant. Well, you've got some great ideas. Robbie says, I didn't find the right way. Okay, and I'm going to help you do that, Robbie, and everybody else, because I've studied this a lot. Phrasal verbs and vocabulary in general. And I feel like the traditional way is not, well, there's a traditional way that is, everybody knows it's not the best way. And that's learning a big list with translations to your language. It's boring. Your list is normally, 50 phrasal verbs or 30, and you don't learn it in context. And that can be the same with vocabulary too. You learn it as you're memorizing a dictionary instead of actually learning in context. So I'm going to show you the way that I use and the way that I teach. Okay. The Lima method. Okay, that's what I want to talk to you about. And this is a really, really, really effective way to learn phrasal verbs without memorizing, without having to sit in front of a big list of 50 words and just try to memorize them like some kind of memorization game. Okay, so Lima, like this guy. He is a lemur, but and they're cute. But I'm not talking about that type of lemur. I'm talking about Lima, which is learn by exposure. This is something I invented, okay? Learn by exposure. That's the E. So first, and this is chronological, okay? So the first thing you need to do is be exposed to the phrasal verb. Okay, and this can be either by reading it in a short story or listening to it in a short story, in a short video, in a podcast. Okay, but first, exposure. If you do this first, you're being exposed to the phrasal verb in context and in a story. So you hear it, but you hear it naturally. And it doesn't become the memorization tactic of learning a phrasal verb, but it just becomes part of the story. The next step is to learn the meaning of that phrasal verb. So first, you've seen it in context, then you learn the meaning. I like to help my students do this by offering some kind of memorization techniques, which a friend of mine, a good German friend of mine, said that in German they have an expression that's called a donkey bridge, Eselbrücke, or something like that, I think, in German, a donkey bridge. She said, she always told me, Greg, wow, I used to work with her. She said, Greg, you have these fantastic donkey bridges. I said, what? But they're like visual techniques or memorization, like you relate it to something else to help you remember them. So learn the meaning, hopefully in a way that helps you remember the meaning. Okay. The next, the U of Lima is understanding. Okay, so basically, once you know the meaning of the phrasal verb, you repeat the process of exposure. You read the same thing again, or you listen, or you watch the same thing again. You know more or less what it's about, what the story is about. You've learned the phrasal verbs, and now you watch it again, or you listen to it again, or you read it again. You learn the phrasal verb in context, and you understand it this time. Okay, so it goes in your brain much more. You feel it, and you remember it, and you see it in context. Okay, this can be reading or listening or watching, but it's a reception. And the final one is repetition. Okay, so it's not enough to just absorb this and learn the meaning and watch it again. You need to reproduce, you need to repeat it, you need to use it and use it again. And the best technique is to use it immediately and also within 24 hours. It's a scientific repetition, spaced repetition fact that if you repeat something that you've learned within 24 hours, you have about a 35% more probability of remembering it long term. Okay, so the Lima technique is the most effective way of learning vocabulary and phrasal verbs, and that's the way I like to teach. Okay. Okay, and that actually is the way I teach it in my phrasal verbs challenge. In fact, yes, today is the first day of this course. I've been preparing it for a long time, and this uses the Lima method to teach you to teach you phrasal verbs that you remember using the Lima method. You don't memorize lists and lists and lists, and it helps you actually use the phrasal verbs and remember them long term. Okay. So I have something special for you. There you go. Eselbrücke. Donkey bridge. Okay, so I do have something special for you because of the fact that today is the first day that I'm making this course available. A few people have had access to it over the past few months, but today is the first day that this phrasal verbs challenge is available. So if you are interested, I'm going to show you inside the course and just show you exactly how we use the Lima method in the course to help you actually master phrasal verbs. But very briefly, it's a 10-day challenge. Okay, so you sign up, you get one phrasal verbs challenge every day for 10 days. We have 10 stories and 10 lessons. So as I said, we use the Lima method. You watch a story, you learn the meaning through me and my donkey bridges. Then we listen to the story again, And then you have the daily tests and a final assessment. So you do the daily tests immediately after learning the phrasal verbs, and again 24 hours after. And you have the final assessment to prove how much you have improved over the past 10 days. And this is going to help you remember phrasal verbs and use them naturally. Okay, so you're not speaking English and then suddenly you think, phrasal verb, no, I'm just going to choose a simple synonym that I know. Now, this is going to help you actually remember them, use them, so you sound more natural. And you can say that the plane takes off instead of the plane leaves. Or what other examples did we have earlier in the lesson? Yeah, pay off. Okay, pay off. Oh, this one's even a better one. COVID broke out in the middle of winter. Yeah, instead of COVID started in the middle of winter, COVID broke out. Okay, so it's going to help you use them more naturally and also sound more natural. Okay, now the something special is just for people watching this live lesson. I'm going to remove this lesson from YouTube in a couple of days, but I have something special for you if you are watching live and if you are watching in the next 24 hours. Okay, I'm going to give you this bonus, which is access to a WhatsApp community where for the next month, you can actually use phrasal verbs and communicate with other people in the challenge to use these phrasal verbs. So you get everything that I mentioned. We use the Lima method, and actually then you have the opportunity to use that in real life, answering questions, having real life communication with other people. I do that with one of my other courses, and it's so much fun to actually interact in English with other English with Greg students. And I'm also going to give you access to me via WhatsApp. So during the course, you can ask me any questions you have about phrasal verbs, any advice you want, any problems with meanings or pronunciation that you have related to phrasal verbs, and I will be there via WhatsApp to answer your questions. The normal price for this is 129 euros. This week, though, it's 89. Okay, we're going to do this for the launch week, which starts today and ends on Sunday. But we're not going to do that for you. If you're watching this live lesson, I'm going to make it 69. Okay, you need to use the promo code YouTube on the checkout page. And that is, as I said before, I'm going to just leave this video on YouTube for one day. And this offer is also only available for a day. Okay, so let me make that a bit bigger. 69 euros instead of 129, down to 89. And the free bonuses, you get that this week for 69. Okay, today only. That's kind of the big deal here. Okay, after today, that coupon code will not be valid. Okay, that promo code, let me just say, will be active after this live lesson. Okay, just a few things here then. As I said, a few people have had access to this course over the first few months just to test it. Yeah, give me some feedback. So Iban said, it's the first time that I've seen phrasal verbs in a way that makes them easier to understand. And it's been the perfect way to see how to use them. And that's, I think, the key thing. Okay, easy to understand, easy to remember, and an effective Lima method so that you learn them effectively and long term. Sonia said the chosen phrasal verbs. As I said, you're going to learn 101 phrasal verbs over 10 days, 10 a day. Okay, not too much, not overwhelming. The phrasal verbs are very practical, usable, and you learn it in a way that you don't even know you are learning, in a very fun way. I'm now clear about many phrasal verbs, and I was able to learn and use them. That's the key. That's what I want you to do. You actually use them, not memorize them and forget them, and then they're maybe somewhere in the back of your head one day. But no, you want to learn them in an effective way so that you can use them and sound fantastic, natural when you're speaking English. And Sarah said this course was real fun to get through. It is fun. It is real good fun. We have 10 stories. They're all fun stories. We have a different person narrating the stories. So you hear me delivering the lessons and a different person with a different accent, British accent, narrating the stories. So you get exposure to two different accents, great stories from this character called Emma. And yeah, different stories from her life. And the phrasal verbs, Sarah says, were super, super useful ones. I love Greg's explanations and like that he was always very expressive and having a good sense of humor. Learning English with Greg is always fun. And that is so important because if you have some fun, if you laugh, it creates a feeling in your heart. And the best way to really, really remember things is with a feeling, not just a memory exercise, but a feeling. I always use an example of when I lived in France. I played for the football team and I hurt my ankle. I had to miss many games. I had to go to physio because of my ankle. I will never, ever forget the word ankle in French because I felt the pain of all those doctor's appointments and talking to people about my sore ankle. I have no idea what a different part of your leg is called. I know the knee, but not the top part of my leg. Maybe I do cuisse. I know that from eating frogs' legs too. But I'll never forget the word ankle in French because you feel it. And when you feel it, seriously, you learn it forever. Okay, I'm going to show you inside. Before I do, feel free to send me any questions. Is it lifelong access? Yes, it is. You start the course. You can see here, welcome, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. So every day you get access to a new day. Okay, so you start immediately, you get immediate access to day 1. Tomorrow you get access to day 2, etc. But when you finish, you have access to all the content forever. And another question, do I have to start the 10-day challenge the day that I purchase the course, or can I take it whenever I want? You can start when you want, okay? So this, as I said, today is the best time to join because you get the discount, but you can start tomorrow, next week, next month. That's fine. All right, let's look inside the course. As I said then, we start each day. This is day 1 here. We start with a video story. So it's a girl called Emma and a video diary story. And she talks about a particular experience of her life. She tells part 1 of the story using 5 phrasal verbs. And then we have me. I look a bit serious there, but I'm explaining the phrasal verb fall for, which is separable, which can mean to be deceived or tricked or fooled by a lamb, a lie or a scam. not by a baby sheep, a lamb. No, a lie or a scam or false information. Okay. Hence the serious look on my face. But we do that. Story, part 1 of the story, 5 phrasal verbs, and then I explain the phrasal verb. And then again, another 5 phrasal verbs in part 2 of the story, and then I explain the meaning of the other 5 phrasal verbs. Okay, so little by little. Then we have, sorry, not that yet. After my explanation, we listen to the story again. Okay, so you hear it, you feel the meaning of the story. I explain the meaning, you listen again, understanding the meaning. Okay, lima, and then the r is the repetition. Okay, so you then use the phrasal verbs in these interactive exercises. Okay, there are many types of exercises, and we always have one exercise immediately after you've watched the video, and then again the day after. Okay, so on day 2, you will be doing an exercise, an interactive exercise that tests your knowledge on the phrasal verbs from day 1 and also from day 2. On day 3, you'll revise the phrasal verbs from day 2 and also practice using the phrasal verbs from day 3. Okay, here we have a downloadable PDF for every day as well, which gives you the transcript of the story and the phrasal verbs that we use. We also have meanings and examples in different contexts of those phrasal verbs further down. And then at the end of the challenge, after day 10, you get a phrasal verb final exam. Okay, so this tests your knowledge of all the phrasal verbs that you have done in the challenge, in the 10-day challenge. Okay, so that is the format of this. As I said, we use the Lima technique, which is, I think it's fair to say it's without doubt the most effective way to learn vocabulary. Okay, maybe not the most common. Maybe most people will just read a list of words and remember it. Or maybe read an article, find some words, and remember those words. But it's not enough. Okay, you need to follow all the steps. Exposure, learn the meaning, repeat that process by read it again by understanding, or listen again and understand it, and then put it into practice and repeat. Okay, all those steps. If you have any questions, put them in the chat right now. I have to go very soon. As I said before, this is available this week. It's normally 129. This week it's 89. But for you who are watching the YouTube video now, use the promo code YouTube and you will get it for 69. But that is only going to be available today. Okay. Right then. Any questions? Let me know. I have to go in a minute to feed my children who are coming home in about 2 minutes. And as soon as they come home, it's a bit crazy. I have to cook and feed them and get them ready for bed. So, can I have an invoice? Absolutely. Yes, no problem. Just you get a receipt anyway, but if you need it for tax purposes, just email. Give me your tax information, and we'll send you an invoice with your information that you need on that invoice. How long does every lesson take, approximately? Okay, approximately the lessons are between 10 and 15 minutes. Okay, normally about 13, 14, 15 minutes. That includes the story, the explanation, the second part of the story, the explanation, and the and listening to the story again. Okay, those videos are about 13, 14, 15 minutes, and then you have the exercises to do after. Sonia has started already, and she's going to start day one tomorrow. You can start day one today if you want. As I said, you get immediate access to day one. But thank you for joining, Sonia, and I look forward to helping you. Did we learn about the separable and inseparable phrasal verbs? Absolutely. Every time I explain a phrasal verb, it's always clear if that phrasal verb is separable or inseparable. Okay. Have an example there? Yeah, you see here, fall for, inseparable. I always put on screen whether the phrasal verb is separable or inseparable, and also highlight that in the example. Okay, it's easy for you to see that in the example. I am from the UK. Yep, it's a British English course. As I said, there is another person who is narrating the stories, so we hear a different person. So it's not me. I think it's more interesting that way, and she is also British. Okay, any more questions? Just looking at this question here before I go. How does context influence whether a phrasal verb is interpreted literally or idiomatically? Yeah, I mean, literally, it's very difficult with phrasal verbs. Yeah. Put the phrasal verb, put the cup on the table. It's not really, put on is not really a phrasal verb. In that sense, it's the verb put. Where do you want me to put it? On the table. That is the verb and the like where. Yeah. But when it's a phrasal verb, like put on, I'm gonna put on my jumper. Okay, put on my shoes. Okay. Start to wear something. Mostly phrasal verbs are not literal. Okay, so they normally just have to learn the idiomatic meaning of it. Okay, finally, before I go and feed my children, how long will the promo code work? Today only. Okay, so I'm gonna today it's almost 8 o'clock. I'm gonna leave the promo code for 24 hours. Okay, so and as I said, the promo code will work after this lesson. So the reason is that it will be you will be able to use it in about 5 minutes time, and you will be able to use it for 24 hours. Okay. There you go. That's all for today. Thank you for being here. It's been a great live lesson. I've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed it too. I hope you found it really, really useful. And I hope to see you inside the Phrasal Verbs Challenge. It would be great to connect, great to be on WhatsApp together, and it would be great for you to finally learn phrasal verbs in a fun way that's going to help you remember them, use them naturally, not be afraid of them, not be overwhelmed by the quantity of them, and not be panicking. Just feel good about yourself when you're using phrasal verbs. So I really think you're going to love this course. I know you are. I love it. It's brilliant. So yeah, enjoy. There's a link in the description, and I will see you very soon. New video this Friday. All right. Bye for now.